Hi guys, and welcome to Drum Addicts on Andertons TV. I'm Tobes, and this is
Rob.
And today we are talking about
volume and dynamics and all things that can create it. So we're going to explain all the different products. So we get asked in a store a lot, wow, I'm too loud with my massive big sticks, and these are too loud as well, and I'm getting told off because there's a limiter in the venue and all of that. So we're just going to explain and show, hence the weird kit, because we're just going to hit it on different elements of the kit one at a time, but just to sort of show you what each thing creates, what textures it'll create and what sounds come out of it. So let's start with normal sticks, shall we? And I'll grab you some amazing Pro Marks which I've chewed up already. So
what we deem normal. Okay, and what were these?
Normal.
What were these, Rob?
Well, I'll give you some fresh ones.
Okay.
These are my stick of choice, which are basically
A Pro Mark.
747 jumbo stick.
Hickory as well.
Hickory, yeah.
Wood is very important. Remember that with sticks generally, hickory, maple, and so on. There is a distinct difference of what you get out of the drum, obviously. So, okay, so these are quite light, and these are American Hickory Pro Marks. So, playing snare on. Very nice, nearly dropped the sticks. Okay, yeah, they're nice. They're a good
And
stick.
different elements, so obviously the
Hats.
lovely Peisty hi-hats we've got.
And don't forget, it totally depends on how you're attacking the drum as well. I think the difference, when we're talking about sizes, especially with sticks, and I know we're looking at Pro Mark right now, but for instance, to get very camp on you, would be in the environments I work on, I don't ever stick to the same size of sticks. So for instance, on Wicked, that's in a booth in London, I used a really chunky 2B size. Because the constant critique I'm getting is, can I play with more attack? So I use a larger stick, but with less attack. So I let the stick do the work for me. Whereas a total contrast to that would be, I used to dep for a drummer called Kev Campbell on Chicago. And that was an on-stage big band gig where the dynamic was dramatic. It was like triple P playing a lot of underscore. Therefore, they wanted a lot of attack and definition, but the dynamic to be triple P at the same time. So I used to use for that, I think I used to use an Erskine maple ride stick so that I could actually give more attack from my end and get less dynamic. So it gave the opposite but desired effect. So just again, and I have a variety of weights and sticks for the different environments. So that's something obviously to bear in mind, environment as well as technique that you're delivering from the stick prior to the sticks as well.
So that's a standard wood stick, and then the next thing that everyone rolls to, a set of hot rods. So Pro Mark have been making hot rods for decades. They're kind of like the next go-to thing. These ones are not actually too chewed up, but basically Pro Mark make various different rods. So this is what we're going to try and explain today. If you imagine there's a selection of 3 different rods, it's how many dowels they've got in and how thick each dowel is. So we'll show you, this is sort of the go-to first thing that people go to thinking that's going to make them quieter.
Yeah.
So we'll do a switch.
Okay, and again, from a technical point of view, remember that rods weren't created simply to bring down dynamic. They are actually to bring out a stylistic choice and genre specific as well, which we will talk about. So it's not simply, if I need to play quietly, I just pull out rods, okay? That's the same we stereotypically with drummers and brushes and so on. Rods are a big part of my career. I used to dep for Dave Adams on Lion King, and he has a selection of rods that we would have to change weights during certain tunes and so on to bring out different sounds out of the drums according to the genre that's being played and required. So, but to demonstrate the texture on a snare with just a standard or typical rod. Take the snare off as well, okay? the texture that the what were you calling
Each dowel.
the dowel?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
The texture these bring out. Lovely.
So the sort of next one up from that is the Pro might call it the Thunder Rod for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Less actual dowels and they're much thicker. So if you imagine if you just have a stick, that is one dowel if you know what I mean, and one thick one.
Mm-hmm.
These are thinner. So as each dowel moves and vibrates, it's taking some of the vibration and taking some of the absorption of sound. So that's why they're meant to be a little bit quieter. So,
and actually, when you move up in dowels, it's quite. It certainly is harder to get. Not harder, but requires a bit more effort to draw things out of the rod as such. You can actually hear the dowels kind of communicating to each other. And again, if you're using, I can actually, to cause controversy, coated heads, I really like with rods. They pull more out of the note, and you get almost more of a attack with the rod than clear heads. For me personally.
Just turn the snare on and give that one. So as you can tell from the stick, if you imagine we were playing a minute ago, it was like in our ears, it's quite loud. We can actually talk and have a conversation while playing with rods. So there is a difference in volume. So.
And actually, in a lot of environments, depending on the writing, it's specific to the rods. Mainly, actually, some of the stuff I work on shows, theatre-wise, there's a combination. There's one tune in Wicked, starts on brushes, moves onto rods with a sizzle ride. So it lets the sizzle breathe without the attack of a stick, for instance, and then moves on to the sticks for the latter part of the tune, and then mallets for swells and so on. So. And that's actually due to the writer of the music and so on. So that diversity within one track, for instance, and it is quite beautiful. The transitions between, say, brush to rods to mallets, sticks, and so on. It can be extremely effective with miking and all of the above.
So next ones we're going to try out are these, which are the cool rods. So all the different rods have different coloured butt ends. You'll have blue, black, these ones are even white. So there's lots of different rods in the range. All Pro might just try and cater for every drummer really. So let's try the cool rods compared to now the Thunder rods. So as you can start to hear, they're going to get sort of more and more gentle.
Okay. The dowels all made out of exactly the same wood.
Yep.
Yeah, as well.
It's just number and thickness of dowels.
I see.
So as Toby's just proved there, the sort of secondary red ring of like the plastic rubber around them is for sort of bringing out a rim shot. So obviously it's to hold the dowels together, but obviously when you're playing the snare, you can rim shot. There's like extra thickness there to pull a note out, which is really cool. So after rods, lots of people go to brushes, but sort of in between rods and brushes are broomsticks. So they're kind of an invention that ProMark brought out. Have you ever played with these before? I quite like them.
Are these a recent thing, or they've been around for a long time?
They've been around for a little while, but on the floor tom, these just sound amazing. They're quite hard to pull notes out of. But
and they are called the what?
They're just broomsticks. So
broomsticks.
You can roll the little rubber rings down, and you can splay them out more if you want more of a brush feel.
I see.
Yeah, but they're quite thick. I mean, there are different sizes. I've gone for the big ones because I don't use them that often. I'm usually using them on percussion and something lighter.
Yeah.
But for me, I love the sound of broomsticks on the floor tom. So.
Oh, nice. Swell out as well. They're lovely, yeah.
Moving from broomsticks, which might not be everyone's taste, onto brushes. So people have a sort of misconception with brushes that they're just for jazz, or they're going to magically make you quieter, or anything like that. So we're just going to show you both types. So metal, which is more, I mean, I hate playing with the nylon. I think they're too tinny, and you just don't personally get a nice sound out of them. These are actually my brushes. These are the ones that I use. We'll show you both. Start off with the metal ones. This is what you use most of the time. Not these exact ones, but metal, isn't it?
Yeah, the wire. Yeah, absolutely. And these are TB4s, ProMark TB4s. The only thing with brushes, again, for me, it's really important that you have a variety or a selection of different types, whether it's sticks, different weights that you can pull out. Basically, your tool bag is your stick bag. And you will be required to have different weights for different jobs and so on. Brushes for me, why I like nylons, and I'll come to that in a minute, actually, is for textured and groove-based stuff and Latin things and so on. These are fantastic for actually get more of an application out, less swing application and so on. But wire brushes, to do another, you may remember me from such shows as, I did a stint with an actress called Celia Emery. I did a little run of her. She did a one-woman show. It's fantastic. And I prepared the whole thing with sticks and so on. And when we got to the rehearsals, she insisted, it was insisted that I use brushes. And in fact, I used 3 different types of weights of brushes for that. It was just me and a pianist back in Celia Emery. And because a lot of it was underscore and so on, so the finer wires I was using, in fact, I was using a Ludwig brush, fantastic old brush with really fine wires. And I tend to find the finer the wire, the harder it is to actually work with, which is why there's standard ranges of brushes like the old Vic Firth ones, the Gad ones from years ago, those white ones that used to be his kind of brush.
The bending.
Really, no, in those days they didn't. They were just a very heavy, durable brush, good all-rounder. So bear in mind, you need a selection. There we are. Okay, so these brushes, very, very nice. So a little figure of 8. A bit of jazz here as well. And don't forget, with brushes, whether we've got both ends, the reason for that is clear. You get asked to do a lot of scrapes. That's the first thing. Lovely effect. Or turn them up, And the great thing, if you get a lovely durable all-rounder, when you've got the shoulders, you can swell as well, obviously. The joy of brushes, okay? Not just, obviously, they're just a beautifully made thing for different applications. And so on. Let's try those nylons then.
Also, which not...
Have I ruined them for you?
No. Not everyone notices the little crinkles at the end are also for how thick you want the sort of splay and how much wash you want. So you can go right and it will spread it out.
Yeah.
Or you can go a little less. So that's just the little crinkles at the end. People don't realize, obviously these are retractable, so when you chuck them in your stick bag, they don't get broken.
Yeah.
These ones aren't. You actually prefer plastic, and I don't like
No,
plastic
I don't
ones.
prefer plastic, but sometimes I think, again, it's horses for courses. It's understanding at some point why things are made the way they are, especially with brushes, or stick sizes, mallets. I know a lot of kit players I dep for. When we're going to look at some mallets in a moment, and I'm drifting off slightly, but with mallets they use Glock or xylophone mallets, because you get and this is maybe it's a West End thing, but they use Glock sticks, the padded mallets, rather than standard kit mallets or timp mallets, just because they bring out, you hear less definition, you get far more of a swell out the cymbal and so on. All these kind of little things, and that's a percussionist talking to a kit player saying try this and so on. But with nylons, I think Dave Adams is my best example. He has such a great stylistic knowledge of what nylons and so on to bring out more of a groove-based thing or wet sound and so on. There is a reason for it. A lot of drummers we use for nylons, younger drummers, stereotypically, when they're learning to play, say, swing, it takes less effort and you get more of a consistent sound, say with a little figure of 8 and so on. So if you want to pull out a note, it's a lot easier with nylons.
I'll tell you one good thing for nylon brushes, when you're playing in an electronic kit, because the nylon's slightly thicker, it doesn't dig into like the mesh head or the rubber pad so much, and you don't damage your expensive electronic kit. So, another sound source. Now this is a whole different topic for you, isn't it? So we sell lots of different mallets. These are some Promark ones again. These are mine, and they're one of my newer set. But we even do gong mallets that look like baseball bats with big furry heads on. So these are quite a firm mallet. Now you use all sorts of different.
I do, yeah.
To get textures.
Yeah, I do. And in fact, for me personally, because I work with a lot of percussionists, I tended actually to simply source their advice. Because if you ever sit in a percussion booth, it is just a totally different world where there are just selections of different weights, different mallets, whether it's timps, Glocks, xylophone, and so on. It's just, and for swells and so on. And as I say, there's a lot of drummers I now dep for that use, I think almost 100%, it's Glock or xylophone beaters to just bring out a cleaner swell. So you don't get that crescendo, you don't hear the definition of the stick, that's all. It's a geeky thing that a lot of drummers are doing, which is it's very effective. Everyone should have a standard set of mallets, whether it's for swells, you should have. It's as simple as that. Let's just do one hit. Oh, that's really lovely. That's really lovely.
That's a ride, by the way, Toby.
That's nice though, you know?
So there's a selection of different Promark products that you can use to make different sounds and different textures on the kit or on percussion. Everything from stick to rods to mallets, broomsticks, different size rods. They're all different. They all give a slightly different nuance and sound on each instrument, which hopefully we've got over to you on this weird looking little kit. But they're really a stylistic choice and a genre choice. Someone might use a lightning rod to do a Latin thing or do something a bit different, or like Toby's explained many times, different shows on the West End use different tools. So they all do the same job, and that's to make sound and rhythm, but they all do it in a slightly different way. So check it out, really sort of see what sounds you need to get. That's the whole thing. And to be honest, all of these in all their pair forms are not expensive. So just buy them and try them. They really are. You couldn't listen to this video and go, oh, that broomstick's a bit weird. When you feel it, that's the first time you've played it.
Yep.
It's a feeling thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
They do.
Absolutely.
They work differently. So
and you need variety in your stick bag. It is as simple as that. If you're looking to be a working player, you will need a good selection, and you'll need choices. So it's very, very important that you explore all these options anyway. Very much.
Toby's going to prove to us by grabbing the sticks to his left.
Oh yeah.
That you can in fact play quietly with whatever you've got in your hands.
Really.
So
really.
These are some ProMark giant sticks.
Yeah, these are my signature range. Yeah.
Especially big stick bag you've taken them out of.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a tech for these. Okay. Still got it. See you next time.